Good Monday morning. Welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. We're so glad that you joined us. As always, you can contact me this morning. There you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms. The big story of the day broke last night. JP Morgan Chase is going to buy most of First Republic's assets. This has been, a disturbing trend. This is the third bank to fail since March. And today is, of course, May 1st. So since March. The FDIC took control of the embattled First Republic and then immediately announced a sale of many of its assets and deposits. It makes the lender the second largest bank failure in the nation's history. And this move represents the latest effort by federal regulators to prop up consumer confidence in the banking system, which has now suffered three major bank failures in the last 6 weeks alone. So JP Morgan Chase is buying, as I said, the substantial majority of assets. That broke last night, that coming from CNN. I wanted to pass it along to you so you would be prepared when you heard people talk about it this morning. We're going to take a short break in just a little bit, but before that, later on in the program, Beth Stevens is going to join us. She's with the Friends of the Library book sale that's coming up starting on Saturday over here at the Union Hall in Corning. We're going to find out a little bit about that so you can be prepared and go out and help the Friends of the Library. So that's coming up. As I said, by the way, over the weekend and late Friday, received so many great emails, so many great texts, people telling us how good the play was at Corning Painted Post. I had a few conversations this weekend about that. I understand that the kids did wonderful with The Little Mermaid. But please contact us right there. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about New York State issues. We have some federal issues, the presidential race, some updates on Congress if we have a chance. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. We're back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Before we get into New York State issues, I'm going to try this. I'm not sure how well it'll go. If you don't follow WYDC TV on Facebook, please do that because we give you a lot of updates on what's happening with the program, but also you'll have an opportunity to catch past interviews. Well, over the weekend I did share this, so if you already saw it, I apologize, but if you'll humble me for just a moment, we had two very special visitors. If you look there on your screen, on Saturday, getting a tour of the Frankly Speaking studio. You, of course, know Allison Hunt, the deputy mayor of Corning, and that's our friend, Jacqueline. And that is our biggest, I should say, littlest fans right there in the front. I love Frankly Speaking on their shirt. On the back, it said littlest fan. So that's Walker and Victoria, and we thank them for stopping by and telling us how much they enjoy Frankly Speaking. They're big fans. They demand that their parents watch it every morning at 7 a.m. Okay, thank you for humoring me. I wanted to show you that. That was a special treat from over the weekend. Let's talk a little bit about New York State issues, of course. Well, I actually read this morning, we know the budget has been delayed. They have come up with at least a plan. They said they have to tweak it just a little bit, but there is something there. I understand it could be voted on as soon as today, but we've had a lot of time frames go by the wayside very quickly when it comes to the New York State budget. So we'll keep you updated on that when we get more information. But before that, if you recall last week, I told you about this kind of, some are calling it shadowy or shady character based out of Colorado that was working for Governor Hochul and making a lot of decisions, bad decisions, by the way, for Governor Hochul. Well, we learned today from the New York Post that he has called it quits. This came out just yesterday. A political guru, it says here, whose only client, by the way, or only big name client, was Governor Hochul. He has called it quits after being blamed for driving her political operation into the ground while developing a toxic reputation among her staff. Colorado-based consultant is named Andrew Sullivan, 42 years old, told Hochul's 2022 campaign staff on his decision. This is what the email read, quote, "I'm writing to formally let you know that I've decided to step back from my role helping or advising the governor as well as the state party and any other efforts in New York State for the foreseeable future." There was a lot of criticism, of course, the fact that Governor Hochul was hiring somebody from out of state as if someone based in very rural, is what we learned, very rural Colorado, would have any idea of what the issues are that are pressing in New York State. The move followed a report revealing Sullivan's central role in advising Hochul on major decisions, as well as being behind a decision that nearly torpedoed her bid to become the first elected female governor in state history. It also comes amid complaints that it was a kind of a toxic work environment with him around. Very loud, very demeaning. It says here specifically to a young female staff. We listened to him, and he called the shots, said one former campaign staffer. Sullivan, who has no formal job other than running a small consulting firm, overruled others in the campaign who thought Hochul ought to respond to attacks by Republican nominee Representative Lee Zeldin over crime, instead advising her, to focus on abortion. This speaks to Adams' ability to drive Kathy's decision one way or another, a second source said, of course, keeping it anonymous. The New York Times was actually the ones who started reporting on this, and it's not good for a Democrat politician to have the New York Times turn on them. It's not, and it does not happen very often. Sullivan's alleged egomaniac attitude behind the scenes appears to date back to Hochul's successful 2011 congressional race, so been with her for a long time. In her most recent campaign, he would try to impress staffers at times by walking the halls while loudly speaking to Hochul and ask questions about their personal life despite professional boundaries. It's a new work environment. You can't ask those type of questions. So he has, and there's a great reporting on this by the Post, and again on the New York Times, surprisingly, which you will not hear me say very often, but they were not happy either that this shadowy, as it said there with the New York Post, shadowy character was running and making the decisions for Governor Hochul based out of rural Colorado. I mean, and that could speak to, remember, with the budget, a lot of times things would come up out of nowhere. Things that we had no idea would even be in the budget. Just when things looked like they would get close in negotiations, something else would be thrown in the mix. Like, for instance, when they were going to change greenhouse gas emissions standards or something to that. It was a very wonky policy right out of the blue. So I wanted to give you an update because that's a story that we brought to you last week. We already have to take another short break, but like I said, Beth Stevens is going to be in to join us this morning. She's with the Friends of the Library. They have their book sale coming up Saturday. Many of you, myself included, look forward to that every year. So we'll talk to her about that, what we can expect. It has a new location. It's now at the Union Hall here in Corning, so we'll talk to her about that coming up in just a little bit. As always, I know I keep highlighting it, but you can contact me because we had such great conversations last Friday with so many of you weighing in on these issues of the day. You can talk about the budget if you like. You can talk about Governor Hochul and this Adam Sullivan character. Not a lot known about him, but that I thought was interesting. We do have a few other New York State issues, one in reference to bail reform. We're also going to talk about perhaps illegal marijuana stores. Actually, the Daily News speaking out on that. They said that they are supportive of legalizing marijuana, but not the way, of course, we ran it in New York. Yes, it has been a real mess. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. So we've been learning a little bit about bail reform. The Richmond County District Attorney, our guest is coming in, weighed in on this from over the weekend, saying during an interview, got it? All right. I'll be right with you, okay? Sure. All right. So saying over the weekend on WABC 700, we're certainly glad that they did something, this again on bail reform, but we're worried that this is a Band-Aid on a gaping wound because we still have charges that are not bail eligible. And this is what we highlighted last week, the fact that it only relates to felon and high-level misdemeanor scenarios. So the commercial burglar who's really terrorizing New York City now, or the drug dealer, or the person who has a gun history, a history of violence, has a history of violating orders of protection, they will still not be bail eligible. Isn't that amazing? So it's incremental changes, but it's clearly not enough because we see the changes from Albany over the last few years of the law, bail reform, raise the age, discovery, has taken away accountability from the criminal justice system, and we see what happens. Crime is up. Now, we know when they were pushing this, and that again was Richmond County District Attorney Michael McMahon, they were trying to suggest that even though you're seeing this increase in crime with your own eyes, or maybe unfortunately you've experienced it or your family's experienced, then never mind that. Just trust them and their numbers, and there's no issue. But this is something that's going to have to be addressed, and small changes like this are a step in the right direction, but clearly does not go far enough, and that's something that concerned us right from the jump when we learned of what Governor Hochul was asking. And again, that was a very tough sticking point in the negotiation. They said they wanted, meaning the Democrats that were negotiating with her, they did not want any changes to bail reform. We had the one assemblywoman who was actually on a hunger strike. I haven't heard any more about that, but was on a hunger strike demanding that no changes be made to bail reform. But I cannot stress this enough. It's why Lee Zeldin did so well. We have to take care of crime in the state, and we have to address it head on. Instead of coddling the criminals and tying the hands of the police, we need to reverse that and go back. And again, a lot of people, even on the right, have said it, that we could make changes to where it was before, but not this extreme, again, coddling of criminals. So we've got to take a break because we have Beth Stevens coming up here in just a moment. We're going to talk about the Friends of the Library book sale starting on Saturday, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program, because joining me in the studio is Beth Stevens. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're with the Friends of the Library, and the book sale, I think I speak for a lot of people. We look forward to this every year.
Oh, so do we.
Yeah. When does the prep begin on this? Is it year-round?
It's year-round.
Yeah.
We sort year-round. The actual prep for this started on Friday when we moved in the tables. Saturday we moved in the books, and we're busy sorting and setting up now.
I love to see the volunteers when you go, because there's normally 2 or 3 volunteers that help, and they're so nice and so friendly.
We all love it. It's one big family, and I can't tell you what a marvelous group we have.
I believe it. And people volunteer year after year, right? They want to come back.
Oh, my gosh, yes, yes. There are a bunch of us old timers.
And we're talking about the Friends of the Library book sale, which is starting this Saturday, right?
This Saturday, 9 o'clock.
Now, could you explain, because that's for members only, right?
That is what we say, but all it means is that you can join at the door.
Oh, okay.
It's $5 for a membership. That membership goes for a year, and it will involve the sale in the fall as well. And then you kind of get little blurbs from us every so often, like, oh, we're having a special event. Mm-hmm. Just make sure
Don't
you know
forget,
about it.
Yeah. Well, and you do a lot with the Friends of the Library throughout the year outside of the book sale?
The Friends do a number of things. For example, last summer, and we're continuing this summer, we have a stall at the farmers market.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yes. We're doing more. Friends, to me, the purpose is to promote the library, and we do it by fundraising, and we do it by letting the community know we're here.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that fundraiser in just a moment, but it starts Saturday, it runs all the way to the next Saturday, and throughout, there's tiers, right? So
Yes.
Throughout the week, my favorite, I don't go to this, but I love seeing when people doing pictures, is the last day, it's a box or a bag, right?
Box and bag, yes, starting at $5, depending. Some bigger boxes go up to $10. But yes.
Well, it is a great event, and if you're a book person like I am, you know how expensive new books can be.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And you see new books there a lot. You see just about any kind of book you can think of. And there's even one of the parts that I like a lot, some collectible books that cost a little bit more, but they may be autographed or they may be a rare edition. I think that's pretty neat.
Yes, and our gentleman in charge of that tells us that we have a marvelous collection this year. He rates them, and I think he rates this one as an A+.
Oh, wow. And you were saying off the air that this is your biggest sale yet?
It is. Number one, because the Union Hall is our largest site.
Yes.
We could put in more tables. And because over COVID, we were still collecting books, but we didn't have a sale for a whole year.
Yeah.
So we finally are able to bring out everything.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I want to talk about, because COVID affected you guys a lot, because it was right around the time that everything started shutting down. So you must have been in full prep mode.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we had a garage full of books and
Yeah.
nowhere to put them.
Isn't that
Yes.
funny? And so now the sales are bigger than ever. And you said, I want to highlight that it is a new location. We all kind of got used to the old location, so don't drive down there. Go to the
Right.
Union Hall. That's right here in Corning in 100 Nazareth Civic Center Plaza. So can people donate books throughout the year?
Absolutely. In fact, we encourage that because we take turns sorting. It's quite a task.
Where do people go to donate?
You simply drop them off at the library.
Oh, okay.
If you have a small amount, you can bring them in. There's a place in the library. If you have several boxes, you can call ahead and we will open the doors and you can bring them right into the garage. If you are unable to bring them and you want to donate, we have people who will come to your house and pick them
Oh,
up.
that's great.
Yeah.
What I like, and I always find this really interesting, you see all the books, seas of books everywhere, but there's even more books underneath the table. How many books do you think you have?
Oh, I can't even count the thousands. I think we say at least 10,000.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And we were saying off the air, and this is so amazing because people might say, well, where's the money go to? So could you tell us a little bit about that?
So yes, we actually did a little calculation last year, just out of curiosity, and discovered that over the years we have raised over $1 million for the library,
Wow, that's great.
and most of that goes to children's programming.
Isn't that nice?
The events that happen in this summer, Miss Sue's
Yeah,
programs
of course,
all during
everybody
the
knows
year.
that.
I
Yes.
know everybody loves Miss Sue.
Yes. Well, that's great. That's great that you guys have raised that much. It doesn't surprise me because, like I said, people talk about this really year round, getting ready for
Yeah.
the book sale. And I think a lot of us put off maybe starting a new book because we want to go to the book sale and buy just a few. I should highlight that it is cash and check only, right?
Yes, we, as I said, we're an aging group of volunteers, and we've just gotten used to having to use the cash register to add sales tax.
Oh, okay.
And so we're easing into it. We're hoping in a couple years we'll feel comfortable enough to add in credit cards.
Okay.
But not yet.
Not yet, but I'm sure you'll get there. If someone wants to volunteer, maybe for this book sale or when you have the fall book sale, how should they get involved? By joining the Friends of the Library?
They can, or they can leave their name at the circulation desk and they contact us. We have a calling list when we're ready for the sale. We call people and say, what can you do? Can you help set up? Can you help work the sale? And I think that's the easiest way than giving you a name or
Okay.
anything like that.
Okay.
Just tell them at the circulation desk and they'll take your
help.
name and they'll get hold of us.
So it's a week long. What's it like the Sunday after it's all over?
A little bit of a letdown, but and then a little bit of, oh, look, we still have all these books left. What are we going to do? We're very lucky we have someone in Cortland who's going to come down and take a number of them for
Oh,
us,
great.
so they will still get reused.
Yeah.
And some of them we'll find other uses for.
Sure.
We keep trying to be creative.
Of course, of course. I've never been on the first day. I always wait till about midweek. What's the first day like? Is there lines out the door?
Yes, and early. So if we open at 9, at 7:30, you may see people there
Is that right?
because we give people numbers. At least it's always been at the fire hall. We were limited to 100. I think we'll be able to have a few more this
Oh,
year.
good.
But people want to get the
Get the-
best
get the
selection.
best.
And we're very lucky in that we have the support of dealers
Mm-hmm.
who come, and they know that we have good quality, modern, up-to-date books.
Sure.
We try to cull them and make sure that we're offering the public the best.
Absolutely, and I would highlight because like I said, I go in the middle of the week, but it's not like there's a lack of books in the middle of the week.
Oh, no.
That's why I wonder what the first day's like because by Wednesday or Thursday, it's still piled high, and it's
Yeah.
so many different genres. And one thing that we didn't talk about, but it's not just books as well.
No, CDs, albums, records, DVDs. We have a little flea market, which
Yeah.
kind of people have fun with.
Yeah.
And this year we're having a raffle.
Oh, great idea.
We have a woman who's donated a quilt. It's
Oh.
absolutely gorgeous.
Okay.
And we have some, they're called junk journals.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Well, it's kind of like a scrapbook, but used with what they call ephemera, which
Okay.
is little bits and pieces of nothing.
Okay, all right, okay.
And lace. But we had a donation of several of them, and we looked it up, and one of them had a price of $75 inside
Wow,
it.
wow.
We thought, well, okay, we'll put these up for raffle. So we've got that. We've got a Native American painting, and I think we're going to have something from China as well.
Oh, that's great.
We're raffling off. So yeah, we just try to keep it interesting and change it up each year.
Well, you always do. You always keep it interesting. So it starts Saturday, that's 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. Then Sunday's noon to 5, and that's open to the public starting Sunday. Saturday,
Yes.
you just have to join the Friends of the Library, which you should do anyway, right?
Yeah, we love it.
And then Monday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Wow, you stay open late. That's, of course, open to the public. Friday, 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. And then Saturday, May 13th, and that's the Box and Bag Day, 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. That's open to the public. Boy,
Yes.
you can really get your whole year's reading in that day.
Well, that's a lot of people do. They say, stock up. We're advertising this year. Get your summer beach reading in.
That's right. That's a
Yes.
great way. That's a great way. Well, just before we go, what would you tell somebody who's maybe never been to the library book sale?
Be prepared to take a lot of time.
Yes.
There's so many things to look at.
I always try to go on my lunch break, and I'll always block off a little over an hour.
Yes.
Because there's so much to look at, and there's going to be books there that you may not even know you wanted to read.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes. That's why we love sorting.
Yeah.
As we go through and we go, oh my gosh, look at this book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, did you see this one? Yes. We have a great time.
So I would recommend everybody go out, and like I said, even if maybe you're not a book person, there's so many things there that they have to offer, and it's just kind of a fun community meeting almost.
Yes.
You
yes.
run into so many old friends and so many people you haven't seen in forever. It's kind of
Yes,
nice.
yeah, it is.
Well, Beth Stevens, thanks so much for being on the program, and good luck. I know you guys are going to need it. You're going to be so busy.
We will have a ball, and I'm sure we'll be successful.
Oh, I know you will be,
Thanks
especially
for your
after this
help.
time. Of course, anytime. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We're back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Thanks again to Beth Stevens. If you haven't been, I'm not exaggerating when I say how great it is. So if you haven't been to the book sale, it's over here at the Union Hall. I would highly recommend it. If you are a big reader, and even if not, you will find something there that will pique your interest. I'm going to go back to New York State issues for just a moment. We were talking about bail reform not having enough teeth, so to speak. That's something that we had predicted a while on. More people are speaking out on that. But there's also been the issue, I haven't heard anything come of this from the budget, in full disclosure. I haven't heard that. But the Daily News, who is left-leaning, they're not happy with the rollout, if you will, of of marijuana legalization, but what has led to the black market, the illegal sticker stores. It says, to the obstacles facing the state's homegrown marijuana industry, we can now add targeted litigation. I guess in Harlem, they are suing a licensed cannabis store, not even an illegal store from right by the Apollo Theater, raising issues of crime, congestion, and drug use, among many other things. The group has a right to file the lawsuit, and we share with them the concerns about the exploding number of illegal pot shops, but they're going after a legal one. Unfortunately, there seems to be no way to stop the illegals, which are causing the problem. Isn't that amazing that we have just given up? There's no way to stop. They are illegal. So it would essentially be like, we can't stop, the drug dealer on the street corner. Well, I don't understand what the difference is. Now, in New York City, I know they're popping up. What was the number that we heard last week? There was like 1,400 or something. But it's almost as if, probably by design, it's been very difficult to enforce any type of legal repercussions against these stores, if you will. If state regulations require legal shops to be not only 500 feet away from schools, but anywhere students gather, as the group contends, the state would be hard-pressed to find any sites in compliance. It is also true that it's embarrassing for the city to have contracted with a landlord that also provides space for an alleged unlicensed seller a block away, where a man was actually murdered execution style not just 1 month ago. But the group's preeminent concern seems to be a lack of community input on the site selection. And I think that is going to be a major issue. We actually talked about this with Allison Hunt as the legal avenue is being explored. Some people are now concerned, wait a minute, I was for this, but I guess I didn't know it was going to be so close to neighborhoods, right? The state's misstep, again, this is from the Daily News, the state's missteps on the rollout of the state's cannabis industry will now be further delayed. The struggling legal sector may get sucked into the vortex of endless community deliberation, limitless stakeholders to be consulted, and lawsuits about not my backyard kind of idea. Tools used to derail something like this. This is particularly true given that no community can plausibly claim an overabundance of licensed weed sellers when there are only 5 citywide. What we need to do is attack what everyone understands to be the root of the problem. And this is what it boils down to, which is the uninhibited proliferation of unlicensed sellers, now numbering more than 300 times as many the licensed ones, swamping the market, threatening the legal businesses, and creating the types of community and security issues that the business district group is complaining about. Instead of going after the few legitimate businesses, let's double down on creating real consequences for the illegal actors. And again, I don't understand where the hitch is there, why we haven't done anything. Because we're not getting the revenue from this. Folks, we're losing money with these illegal stores. If we're going to legalize it, and we did in the state, though it's not legal at the federal level, remember that. If we're going to legalize it, we should have had something in order to get that revenue. Now, I don't agree with it in general, but that's neither here nor there. It is New York State law now. Why did we not have a better plan? One other New York State issue, and before we go to this break, I'm not going to say on a lighter note. I'm going to let you judge that. Again, you can contact me when you hear this. So I'm not going to say it's a joke. Friends, which I'm surprised it's plural, friends of former Representative Anthony Weiner, remember that name? A convicted sex offender. His friends are urging him to run for political office again, making a comeback by pitching himself as a moderate Democrat to rebuild New York City. Yes, they want him to run for New York City mayor. Actually, one of the people, and I can never remember how to pronounce his name, but Curtis Sliwa, S-L-I-W-A, he actually ran as a Republican for mayor in New York City. He's been one of the people that are active with Neighborhood Watch and like that. He's actually encouraging Weiner to run. He has been encouraged to run for office by me and others, he told a radio show. He believes Weiner would be a moderate Democrat to be what this city needs now to take it back from AOC. He knows a moderate path to save the city. Now, Weiner's problem in public life started back in May of 2011. It's early. There could be kids watching. We know there's kids watching. We saw the picture earlier. So we don't want to go into the graphic detail about sex offender Anthony Weiner. But isn't that interesting about politics that even with all that, there's still people encouraging him, hey, you were good at it before, but was he good at it? He brought down his own campaign how many times? And look with that Huma Abedin, what that did to her. Man, a lot of people on the left blame Anthony Weiner for the reason why Hillary Clinton didn't win, because of the laptop or his laptop with all that information on it. I don't know if that's the case, but I know a lot of people aren't happy with him. We'll watch that closely. All right, we're going to move away from New York State issues. I know we're covering a lot this morning, but I think that's why you tune in. I think you tune in to get all the news that you possibly can. We're going to talk a little bit about the federal level, a few things here about Joe Biden, a few things here about Donald Trump as well. So that's coming up in just a little bit. I do have a little time. So just a few weeks ago, really when the show first started, we quote unquote celebrated, which is not the right word, but we talked about the anniversary of the COVID lockdowns. And as we look back, of course, there's a lot that we can learn. There was a lot of mistakes, or I don't even know what you would call this a mistake, but the disgusting decision with the nursing homes by Governor Cuomo. But Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, according to the New York Post and specifically Miranda Devine, is going to investigate COVID-19 vaccine producers. This could be very important, and this could be something that helps us get to the bottom of where a lot of this came from. It's sickening, she says, how much big pharma bosses have profited from the COVID-19 pandemic. Have you seen these numbers? Moderna chief executive Stefan Bancel made nearly $400 million last year on his stock options, and he still owns a reported $2.8 billion of shares in the company, plus his salary and perks. And I had another piece on that this morning from a different outlet, MSN, saying that they raised his salary last year by 50% to $1.5 million and increased his target cash bonus. Bancel, 50 years old, said he is donating the proceeds of stock salaries to charity. Or stock sales, to charity. So he sees the bad PR that this represents. He owns stock worth at least $2.8 billion. And as of the end of last year, had additional stock-based compensation valued at $1.7 billion. Now, Pfizer, his Pfizer counterpart, Albert Bourla, pocketed a $33 million salary last year on top of the millions in shares that he holds. But before they ride off into the sunset, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton plans to investigate whether their companies misrepresented the efficiency and safety of the vaccines and manipulated vaccine trial data. And that's why I say it's going to be important that we get down to the nitty-gritty on this, so we get down to the hard facts. On Monday, Paxton will launch an investigation into potential violations of his state's Deceptive Trade Practices Act by Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, he has revealed. He also wants to know whether the pharmaceutical giants engaged in gain-of-function research. And that's why this is doubly important. To not just look at, did they manipulate the data for profit, but were they involved, like Dr. Fauci was, in this gain-of-function research? And also, he's going to ask the question, did they mislead the public about that gain-of-function research? So Miranda Devine has high hopes for this, saying that it could stick it to big pharma execs. But I wanted to mention that to you. I know we've had a lot of conversations about the COVID vaccines here on the program, and we've only been on the air about a month and a half. So let's take that short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. Thanks again to Beth Stevens for being our guest this morning. She's with the Friends of the Library book sale. That begins Saturday, so don't miss it. Over here, brand new location at the Union Hall. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. All morning I've asked you to contact me if you have anything you'd like to weigh in on, and we just received one regarding Governor Hochul's shadowy consultant. This coming from a viewer. Why would Hochul part ways with a toxic advisor? That is what works best in the political society and environment. She won. Isn't that all that matters to Democrats? I'm actually a little surprised that he did go away. It's got to be a couple things. That the New York Post, and I'm going to put up some contact information, the New York Times started focusing on it. That's not good for a Democrat politician. You and I may not care about the New York Times, but that is important to Democrat politicians, specifically in New York. So that's part of it, I think. Also, because at least the rumors started coming out that he was creating that toxic atmosphere behind the scenes, that is not a good look in today's climate. Because once it started focusing on the fact that he was specifically singling out younger women that work there to be ask inappropriate questions about their private life or to be aggressive with or nasty with, that's when you have to, especially a Democrat, has to part ways before that becomes a bigger issue and more investigations and more looks into exactly how he, quote unquote, ran the campaign. So there you go. Thank you for that, by the way. Did you see this big story before we go to another break? I know we're moving fast this morning and covering as much as we possibly can. Let me see. Let's get to our browser. If you saw this story, because this is going to be a major story. Trump is planning an Iowa appearance the same day as DeSantis visits the state. Now, DeSantis has not declared. We heard rumors that at some point in May, he may announce that he's starting an exploratory committee. It comes as DeSantis, who has kept an intense travel schedule in the last few weeks as he nears a possible White House bid. He was already scheduled to appear in the state at a number of fundraising events. DeSantis, who is seen as the main rival to Trump, is set to marquee Representative Randy Feenstra's annual fundraiser and then speak at a GOP fundraiser in Cedar Rapids later that day. Now, I understand that former President Trump will be rallying at Des Moines on that same day. This is why I bring up the story. Trump posted his largest lead over DeSantis yet in last week's Morning Consult survey. Now, this was specifically done with Republican voters. The former president, 58% support, and DeSantis coming in second with 21%. DeSantis pulled closer to former Vice President Mike Pence, who is mulling a campaign and got 7% in the survey. Another interesting point on that is when you look at those numbers. So DeSantis at 20. We heard, 70% of Democrats or 70% of voters did not want President Biden, to run for re-election. And there's a piece this morning coming from well, let me find it here. The New York Post, another one from the New York Post, saying conspiratorial RFK Jr. They always say conspiratorial. He doesn't believe the story of who actually shot his father or who killed JFK. He's always pushed against vaccines. So they have to make sure that they put that right in the headline. And that's not just New York Post. That's pretty much any outlet that talks about RFK Jr. But he announced his bid 2 weeks ago. The New York Post is suggesting that he could be a tough foe for Joe Biden. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced his bid not even 2 weeks ago and already polls at 20% in the Democrat race. That's partly a function of his famous name, of course, but it's also a symptom of the party's unease with Biden. I think there is an opportunity here if you would, I don't know if RFK Jr. is the right candidate, but I do think if they on the left picked a strong candidate to run, I think Biden could really be in some hot water, and it looks like he already is just with RFK Jr., even though the media coverage of RFK Jr. has been nonstop negative about the vaccine, questioning the vaccine, but also having the stories that his family doesn't support his run, those type of things. So overall, the survey found some 70% of Americans think Biden shouldn't run. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was at a event, he's actually talking to CNN, and they asked him about transgender athletes participating in women's sports. This is quite a departure from maybe the left's talking point, but this is what RFK Jr. had to say. I'm against people participating in women's sports who are biologically male. I think women who have worked too hard to develop women's sports over the past 30 years. I watched it happen, and I don't think that is fair. So that's a very big difference between what the Democrats' normal talking points are. So is he doing that to differentiate himself from Biden? And if there's any other candidates to jump in, that Marianne Williamson, I don't think I pronounced her name right, but I know that she's in there as well and not polling all that bad. It goes to show the issues that the Democrat Party has with Biden being the front runner. We've got a lot more to talk about, running just a little bit late. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on beautiful Marcus Street in Corning. We were talking before break a little bit about the federal level, RFK Jr. running for president. Chris Coons was interviewed on ABC's This Week over the weekend, and they asked him about the fumbling and bumbling of President Biden, which happens quite frequently. We talked about it last week, also having the cheat sheets, knowing the reporters' questions, which raises other journalistic ethic issues. But then we had that piece from the Daily Beast that said, hey, he's old, get over it, because they're so terrified of Trump or a DeSantis. And that's kind of the way that Coons echoed it. That was, and this again, Senator Chris Coons, being asked by Martha Raddatz, I know you cited at the State of the Union, he had good comedic timing and a lot there on a teleprompter, and people have seen him stumble. That's a weird question by Martha Raddatz, or at least wording of it. The president says, watch me, and some of those people have watched him and still have doubts. What would you say to them about those stumbles and about rambling sometimes? And rambling's a good point, a lot of times making up stories in his background. Coons said, and this is, I guess this is not what you want to be the tagline for your front-runner's presidential campaign. Martha, compare him to the alternatives. That's the best I have. And recognize the value of experience and seasoning. Recognize that his values align better with where we want America to go. And in my meetings and conversations with him, public and private, I'm more often the person that goes, the new senator from Missouri, than he does. He's fit and capable for another term. Now, today, I have had a lot of people reach out to me about this. Hunter is going to court, Hunter Biden. This is a hearing in Arkansas about paying, alimony is not the right word, but paying for a son that a son or daughter that they never really talk about. We know the Biden administration never references the other grandchild that he has. Basic paternity test has now turned into a proxy battle over Hunter Biden's overseas business deals. So according to CNN, this has gotten a little bit bigger than they had expected. And Miranda Devine, again, she was busy this weekend, saying Hunter Biden may be held accountable for the first time in his life in baby mama London Roberts' case. Hunter Biden's showdown with baby mama London Roberts, and seen here in Arkansas today, may be the first time in his life that he hasn't been able to wheedle out of the consequences of his actions. The president's son is crying poor and seeking to cut child support. That's the word I was looking for. Child support payments to his unacknowledged 4-year-old daughter named Navy Joan. Now, he allegedly had this daughter with Roberts, who was a stripper at the time, who he had a months-long affair with. One of his arguments is something to the extent of, I don't remember that time in my life. I don't think that makes up for it. So that could get very interesting. Whether or not the media will really cover it in depth, that's another question. We'll have to wait and see. Let's take another short break, and then we'll be right back. It's hard to believe how quick this is going this morning. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking. We're back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I want to thank everybody who have made Frankly Speaking a part of their morning routine. We cannot thank you enough. I really do. So this is something we talked about last week, and I wanted to give you the update. AOC has now said she is not planning to run for Senate in 2024. There's been a lot of names that have been thrown around to challenge Senator Gillibrand. One name who we still haven't heard from, former governor, disgraced governor, Andrew Cuomo, having at least the idea that he may run, which I think the optics on that would look horrible, him running against a female senator. But things like that have never stopped Cuomo in the past. But for months, there's been the speculation of who would actually, gotta get away there, who, if anyone, would challenge from the left, challenge Senator Gillibrand, because I know that AOC has been critical of some of the decisions Gillibrand has made in the past. But this is what AOC spokesperson Lauren Hitt said, quote, "She's not planning to run for Senate in 2024. She's not planning to primary Gillibrand." Other possible challengers have already opted out of the race. We're not going to go through all of those people that have opted out. Senator Gillibrand has represented our state incredibly well, said Isaac Goldberg, a Democrat consultant based in New York. There's no energy right now to go after someone who spends her time protecting the right to choose, fighting for paid leave, family leave, workers' rights, and a green economy, and everything else Democrats in this state value. All right. I guess we'll end the program on that. AOC not running against Gillibrand. A little disappointment there. That would have been it would have been fun to watch from the political standpoint. That would have been to see AOC hit Gillibrand on not being left enough. I think many of us would laugh at that, but that would have been the avenue that she would have went down, as she has criticized her in the past for that exact reason. We are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you again to everybody who tuned in. I want to thank the Friends of the Library for sending in their representative, Beth Stevens, to be on the program to talk about that great book sale that's coming up starting on Saturday. This has been Frankly Speaking. Have a great day, everyone.